I remember being a kid and turning on the Travel Channel to see this towering, lanky frame on my screen. A man traveling the world with what seemed like this constant, unenthusiastic expression. Yet, the more I'd watch, the more it drew me in.
A struggle to keep order against the natural forces of the world. The strong against the weak. In the real world, outside of the commercial in our heads, people get whacked with a belt.
See, these shows weren't what I was used to.
I did not give Food Network the show they wanted.
Typically, there's this overly expressive enthusiasm and constant positive outlook.
Their greatest fear is that they will not be in the television industry next year. That they'll say something or do something or make a decision that will be so unpopular that they will lose their gig. I don't have that fear.
Travel is almost never a perpetual highlight reel. There's a lot of mundane boredom, a lot of grueling effort in between the beautiful moments.
What's your...
Oh my God.
You okay, man?
Yeah, I'm fine, but oh my God.
Whoa.
Scraped myself, but I'm okay.
Did you save that beer?
Yeah, I saved
You preserved the beer.
Every destination a lengthy train ride, every architectural wonder an exhausting line. But the lows make these significant moments that much more fulfilling.
This is exactly where I've wanted to be since I set...
Street food, beautiful. Night market.
There's at times a lot of uncertainty, which seems to be the theme behind titles like Parts Unknown and No Reservations. See, the appeal of Anthony Bourdain and these shows is that they weren't nearly as polished. I mean, there was a camera crew and a schedule, but Bourdain never really put on a facade.
I wrote an obnoxious book, and that somehow turned into a TV show, and I started traveling, and I never looked back.
There was no TV personality. He was who he was.
To me, I'd much rather not make TV at all, or make even unsuccessful TV, than make competent television. I detest competent, workmanlike storytelling.
A man bearing both his ideals and his trauma for the world to see.
Suddenly, there's a dead sea creature sinking slowly to the seabed in front of me. Are they kidding me? I'm thinking, can this be happening? Splash, there's another one. Another rigor mortis, half-frozen freaking octopus. Splash, splash.
You know, that dead octopus started hitting the water around me. My sense of rage and self-disgust. And I'm not going to say I had a mental or nervous breakdown, but I came close. It was a dark place, very dark, low moment.
Born in NYC in 1956, he'd always grown up with a passion for food, initially sparked by a trip to France when he was just a kid.
A 10-year-old Tony ate his first oyster, and his world was never the same.
I was the sort of kid who, if you dared me to eat something squishy, I'd eat it.
After graduating from the Culinary Institute of America in 1978, he sought to carve out his own path of success. But the cooking world was anything but luxurious. Long hours and grueling work conditions made for a much tougher exterior. He'd bounce around from various kitchens in New York City, eventually settling in as head chef at Brasserie Leal. But there were years of frustration with both his career progression and his lack of a creative outlet.
You know, I'd been in the business for over 25 years at that point. I was in my 40s. There's nothing more foolish than a person who thinks they can make a living writing.
To make matters worse, what interest he had seemed shallow at best.
So I had a pretty minimal expectation when I started to write this article, intending it for a free paper called the New York Press. I figured their standards were low enough. Editor said, yeah, we'll run it, it's great, we'll give you $100. I was thrilled. They said they'd take it, and then week after week after week, I kept getting bumped.
However, this disappointment would end up being a blessing in disguise.
So in a moment of drunken hubris, I called them up and said, screw you, I'm taking the article back, and I sent it to the New Yorker unsolicited. Weeks later, I get a call in the kitchen. It's David Remnick, and it says he's going to print the article. 2 days after it came out, it was a news story.
I was in a cranky mood after my last restaurant closed and felt no reason not to tell the truth about a business I both love and have mixed emotions about.
His frustration with these unethical restaurant practices would not only help him generate intense public interest, but also led him to develop the image of a culinary bad boy. With this article now turned into a New York Times bestseller, he was generating quite the commercial buzz.
This book that you did, Kitchen Confidential, big bestseller. It made a big splash because you revealed a lot of things about restaurants. You told people don't buy fish in a restaurant on a Monday because that fish has been sitting around for a while. You don't want to be eating mussels.
Since the book came out, it's been nothing but free liquor and free food since that time. Chefs kind of dig the book.
See, Bourdain wasn't like the typical chefs you'd see on TV. He was bluntly transparent and completely unfiltered.
The average person, when they go out to dinner, eats about a quarter stick of butter and doesn't know it.
By the time you leave the restaurant, you've probably eaten about a stick plus. Sure.
A stick plus.
Yeah.
If I walk in a room where everybody agrees with me, I find that frightening and dismaying and boring as
Fearless in the face of conversations that would terrify most chefs for fear of being blackballed from the industry.
You'd think cooks and chefs would be angry with me after this book, too. You know, it's been nothing.
Some have to be mad at you because you basically said, look out for restaurants. You're not necessarily getting what you think you're getting.
Some people were horrified in Kitchen Confidential at the dismissive way I talked about people who order egg white omelets or, vegetarians.
And in 2002, would break into television with his first show, A Cook's Tour.
This morning, we're slipping out onto the mighty Mekong River for a little breakfast.
While it only lasted 2 seasons, Bourdain would grow to become a fan favorite, setting a new standard in travel shows. This was raw and unpolished. It wasn't about the luxury travel or upscale restaurants. It was about the everyman, the street food stalls, local small businesses, and the stories behind those who own them.
There we are in the very simple country home of Uncle Hi and his extended family. He's got a few kids in there playing electric guitar, noodling away on an ancient Fender Mustang.
This was way before any social media, before unconventional travel gathered mass appeal and became cool to vlog or document. He was essentially popularizing a new way to experience other cultures, a new way to connect with the outside world.
be open to experience, be willing to try new things, don't have a rigid plan, don't be afraid to wander, don't be afraid to eat a bad meal. If you don't risk the bad meal, you'll never get the magical one.
But while A Cook's Tour certainly did well to showcase his charm and sarcasm, it was more so focused on the food. He was also still pretty new to the whole hosting thing, still in the process of developing his voice. It wasn't until the premiere of No Reservations in 2005 when we'd really see this career start to thrive.
This show, I guess you've been doing it for about 5 years in one form or another, where you travel around the world to exotic places and you sample the food, the cuisine, and the life of these areas.
This time, it was less about the food and more about the culture surrounding it, with a higher production value and deeper cinematic visuals.
Bright pastel-colored houses so the fishermen could see them back in the day when returning from sea.
It fearlessly dove into complex issues surrounding both a country's politics and their society as a whole.
One plate of food would be a good day for any of them. And here, I'm painfully aware, I'm eating 3.
Food was still a core part, sure.
I knew next to nothing about Sri Lankan food before I came.
But the monologues became more about the human condition and experience of the trip itself.
So when I heard she died, I was determined to at very least say a few things left sadly unsaid.
This was also the focus in Parts Unknown, a man eager to share his insight with the world, within places that were rarely ever explored by Western audiences.
This is what you want. This is what you need. This is the path to true happiness and wisdom.
Bourdain's background as a writer would not only help him connect with these audiences, but do so in a way that was almost poetic.
I discovered the glories of the Waffle House.
Marvelous. An irony-free zone where everything is beautiful and nothing hurts. Where everybody, regardless of race, creed, color, or degree of inebriation, is welcomed.
Even when he'd be cynical or sarcastic, there were never any sweeping generalizations. He was simply a man eager to explore.
I don't have a political agenda. If anything, I like very much going to a place, thinking one thing and being completely wrong about all of it.
Yet, behind the childlike wonder and impactful conversations, he was waging his own war behind the scenes.
And he was just like, oh God, I f***ing hate this. I feel like such a, what was the word he used? Such a fraud. And I was like, what are you talking about? You just had like 13 sold out shows. The book is doing amazing. Like, you're literally Tony Bourdain. He was like, yeah, it's all bullshit. I'm embarrassed that people have paid money to come and see me talk. He doesn't think he's as great as we know he is.
See, a lot of Bourdain's insight into the human condition came from his own personal struggles. The use of substances and his mental health were things that he discussed openly.
There was some dark genie inside me that I very much hesitate to call a disease that led me to dope.
A lot of other addicts looked in the mirror every day and did not see somebody worth saving.
Even though these issues were, at the time, far more taboo, most people would perceive a TV personality as stuck-up or shallow, too self-centered to grasp the complexities of a world outside of their own echo chamber. But Bourdain had no fear in discussing his struggles. He was unapologetically transparent. If he didn't like a dish or an experience, he'd let you know.
I'm struggling mightily to feign interest here. Not that what Skiz is saying isn't interesting, I just feel like I'm dying.
If he had trouble coping with his emotional turmoil, he'd bear it for the world to see.
I'd like to be happy. I'd like to be happier. I should be happy. I have, incredible luck. I'd like to be able to, look out the window and say, hey, life is good.
With him, it seemed like there was much deeper insight. Here was a man who had arguably the best job in the entire world, one whose personal experiences could rival that of any individual in recent history. By all measures, he should have been extremely content. Unfortunately, that's not how the human mind works.
He's probably thinking he's the same guy he was in 95, and now here all these people love him. It doesn't make any sense. It just feel like this is gonna fall apart. This is fake.
I don't know much about what went on behind the scenes or about the inner workings of his mind, but what I can understand is the feeling that though things are going really well, it doesn't feel like enough.
Those long days and long nights, and there was something noble about that. All of a sudden, he's just going to visit these guys, and he's not in the game anymore.
As a man, these conversations are difficult. We tend to put up a wall, a fear of being transparent either due to past trauma or the crippling fear of rejection.
There was this disconnect between the guy that he was before he got famous and the guy after. He always thought about how the old guy probably would have made fun of the new guy.
When I'd watch him, I knew I wasn't getting some carefully curated persona or a pre-written script. I was getting Anthony Bourdain.
He was a genuinely humble person. Like, he really didn't buy into his own bullshit at all.
I would have spiraled into petty crime, loserville. I wouldn't have made it out of my 20s for sure. It was the first time that I had any reason to respect myself, and the first time that I really found myself among people whose opinion of me I wanted and respected. So the restaurant business, without question, saved my life.
The real opinions and perceptions of a man whose personal struggles reflected ones similar to my own. This vulnerable dialogue helped foster empathy in a world that often isn't too keen to discuss these topics. He made you feel seen, and he made you feel heard.
You won't find a person that will say a bad thing about him. He's always looking out for you. He'll show up for you. Whatever you need, he'll take care of you.
He's an amazing guy. Very, very interesting guy.
Yet, my favorite aspect of him is that, despite the fame and the struggles, he remained deeply empathetic to the working class.
Despite ties to Hollywood hits, it took a visit by Anthony Bourdain to put Murphy's Law on the map.
He brought a lot of notoriety.
Bourdain mixing in like a regular, downing a pint of Guinness and a shot of Jameson. Right after it aired, folks came in from around the world just to eat and drink where he did.
Germany, Turkey, Israel, Canada.
He was a strong advocate for people who toiled in kitchens all over the world, and those in either underrepresented or marginalized communities.
There's the Jamaica that most Jamaicans live in, cook in, struggle to survive in. There's a small minority who control most everything, and then there's the poorer, generally darker-skinned majority.
Allowing the individuals to speak for themselves, giving them a platform to voice their concerns rather than reading from some generic script prepared by writers who were fearful of ruffling a few feathers.
Chef Chris's Cook Shop has become something of a local institution, a thriving business in a town that's seen better days.
Each dish and establishment he'd approach with intense curiosity, each interaction with an eager enthusiasm, effectively bridging the gap between celebrity chef and the general public.
I meet mostly pretty nice people, doing the best they can, often under very, very difficult conditions.
This willingness to interact with nearly anyone helped foster a much deeper understanding and respect for other cultures.
In my worldview, food certainly plays a role, hopefully, in bringing some kind of enlightenment and understanding and openness and appreciation of other cultures.
He was essentially a one-man bridge into the lives of others. It's hard to quantify just how much of an impact he's had. To this day, people still watch his shows, champion him as one of their heroes, and consider him one of the greatest TV hosts of all time.
And that's what was great about his show, is he went places and talked about food, but then, spiraled into so many other aspects of the cultures.
Yet, despite the success, despite the accolades,
I was standing there dunking French fries at age 44 with no future, and it seems to have worked out.
he was still human. Like so many, still grappling with existence, still doing his best to make sense of it all.
We ask very simple questions. What makes you happy? What do you eat? What do you like to cook? And everywhere in the world we go and ask these very simple questions, we tend to get some really astonishing answers.
I can't say I understood most of his struggles or a fraction of his life experiences, but one thing I know for certain is that he's made far more of a mark than he'd ever realize.
I was fortunate to have him on set. Every time he'd walk off set, I'd always shout at him as he was walking off. I'd say, in my next life, I'm coming back as Anthony Bourdain.
I know many of you who watched him feel you too have lost a friend, a travel companion who was always up for an adventure. It's impossible to fathom how quickly one's life can change. Anthony once wrote, "As you move through this life and this world, you change things slightly. You leave marks behind, however small. And in return, life and travel leaves marks on you. Most of the time, those marks on your body or your heart are beautiful. Often, though, they hurt."
There's no guarantees how long we're going to be here. Just enjoy life.